guide to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7969.
WNXX, Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Brian Kelly updating some LSU injuries. We'll do that in 15 minutes. Don't go crazy. It doesn't sound like there's anything too significant, but some guys were held out of practice when the media was allowed in earlier today. So we'll talk a little bit about that. It is a What If Wednesday. Steve Schneider, former sports director over at Channel 9, now doing some great television work with the LHSAA on their high school football coverage. He'll join us at 2 o'clock to set the scene for another prep season. The Old Yates put out a mock draft today. A lot of LSU and Saints flavor combined at one point, which we'll talk about at 2:15. LSU basketball's got a new schedule, so lots and lots to do here over the next 2 hours. Lock us in and hang out. Start with the Saints. They were back in New Orleans yesterday. I know that because Ross Jackson went and covered practice for LouisianaSports.net and then did interviews and then wrote a story in the Tulane press box and then stayed there too late and they kicked him out and he had to drive home and then send me the story after he got home and wrote the end of it, and I didn't publish it till like 2 o'clock in the morning. But that's why I know the Saints were here, and a few people knew as well. And that's why they went out to Yulman Stadium to watch the one of two practices the Saints are allowing folks to come in and watch. And I have personally never been to a Saints open practice, a Saints practice that allows fans in. But plenty of people have been to lots of them, Ross Jackson being one, Jeff Duncan being another. And many of them who were there last night suggested, hey, good energy from the crowd today, but kind of small crowd. Feels like at this point, like, I'm not going to read too much into the fact that 8,000 people were at practice instead of 15,000 people at practice. I'm not going to go nuts here, but I do think it's a little bit indicative of the temperature around that fan base right now. And it just feels like, as rabid as that fan base is, and trust me, I know that it is, there's just a little bit of a lack of edge right now. I don't know if I want to call it apathy. I think that's a little strong, but I think you could go as far as to say people are disheartened. I think you could go as far as to say as people are a lot more level-headed in August with this team than, generally speaking, you would be. I mean, look, I talked to Jeremy Hill right across this set once about a couple of the Cincinnati teams that he played for, and I said, look, y'all were not good once the dust settled in January. But in August, did you think you were good? He said, oh, we thought we were going to win the Super Bowl. And I feel like fans are like that too. You feel like you're going to be really, really good. It's just the hope is always there before you play a game, before you take a loss. And I just don't sense that unbridled optimism that August generally cultivates around the Saints fan base right now. And maybe that's indicative of the fact that they had 8,000 people at practice, and maybe I'm just reading way too much into it. However, it did sound like that things went pretty well in the practice. It sounded like that Derek Carr had a pretty good day. Ross highlighted his performance over at LouisianaSports.net, and sounds like he had a good day. And you're getting towards the time of camp where it's time to put that roster, set it, and go play. And so there are a lot of folks battling for time. And Dennis Allen spoke to the media last night and kind of gave his message to those guys who are theoretically on the bubble.
That's what this game's all about, right? You know, when the lights come on and you have an opportunity to make a play, do you make the play? And it's really not that complicated. It's not that difficult. Like, you either did or you didn't. the nature of our league is when you're put into positions to make plays, okay, then you have to make those plays. And if you make those plays, then, consistently, then, we got a spot for you. And if you don't, then, just the nature of the business says, we're going to be looking for somebody else.
As I look at roster spots, start to look at positions, and certainly at wide receiver, you could find a competition at the back end there to try to make the team. I think at safety, you could look at some different guys. Corner, there are guys that are probably good enough to play in the NFL that on a Saints depth chart that's pretty loaded at corner, maybe fighting for a roster spot. But I think maybe the most interesting one to me, and we've talked about this a lot over the last 2 days, is probably running back, because Kamara's not out there, and neither is Kendre Miller. And so you've got a lot of guys who were pretty unheralded 3-4 weeks ago that have gotten a lot of reps and may be able to make the team. And one of those would be me, Jordan Mims. And so Dennis Allen talked about him and some of the other guys on that running back bubble.
I've seen him do some good things for us. And I think, he's in a battle to, be on the roster and be one of the 53. And I think, this week will be important for him, just like the other preseason games have been. No different than I think James Robinson's kind of in that same boat. Cabote's got to show us what he can do this week. So I think for a lot of these guys, there's some spots that we're still, evaluating, and so I think this is an important week for a lot of guys.
And that's where we are in this camp. You've got your install in. You understand who your playmakers are. You understand who you need to keep healthy. And then you've got to figure out over the next 6-7 days who makes this team. And then from that point, you get ready for Carolina. Like that's where we are. So at this point, for the next almost a week, you got guys trying to make the team. Meanwhile, you are looking at different combinations, unfortunately, on the offensive line. We're not necessarily talking about roster spots as much as we're talking about who plays here, who plays there. And Dennis Allen spoke to the competition up there, and specifically Oli Udoh.
I'm gonna be really honest with you. I think we got two guys right now that I'd say, without a doubt, we know exactly what we're getting, and that's Caesar and Eric. I feel very comfortable that Tolly's going to be fine over there on the left side, and I think we're still evaluating the left guard, the right tackle. I saw some things that were improved out of Trevor this week, which was positive to see. I think this will be another great week for him to maybe build some confidence off that performance. So, but I think Oli's a guy that as we've gone through and seeing a significant amount of snaps from him in training camp, which we didn't get an opportunity to see this spring, look, he's a guy that we want to take a look at that spot. And, those guys will compete, and we'll see what happens.
I thought that was a pretty good bite as far as Dennis Allen bites go, because you heard him be pretty honest. This is optimism season. This is, generally speaking, the time where everybody's good and we're proud to see what he's doing, working here. Like, everything is generally pretty positive this time of year. And for him to outwardly say there are 3 offensive line spots that he's not just absolutely digging right now, that is eye-opening to me to hear that. And that's probably the downfall of this entire thing. If we're being completely frank about the situation, if this thing falls apart, it'll be because the Saints up front cratered. I don't think Derek Carr is going to throw 26 interceptions. I don't think the defense is going to finish 26th in the league. If this thing craters and the Saints end up with 5, 6, 7 wins, they won't be able to block. And that's the biggest bite that I took from last night with Dennis Allen. Like, they have 3 spots they're trying to figure out. And we know that. We've known that since they broke camp. But it's not sorted out, and they've got to try to figure that out at some point here. So that's the biggest concern. There are a couple of different topics that I wanted to hit on here towards the end of the segment. One is pass catchers. Juwan Johnson has been out and certainly missed a lot of time. He was available yesterday and was working out. That's a really, really good sign. And Dennis Allen talked about Johnson, who's missed really all of camp.
He was back out here today. I think we'll kind of slowly but surely start to ramp him up and do, a little bit more with him tomorrow, a little bit more the next day, and so it'll be good because, he's a player that, he needs to We need him to be out here. We need him. We need Shaheed. We need some of these guys that we're counting on in the passing game so that we can, really start to get the timing and the rhythm in the passing game that I think we're not quite where we need to be right now. And a lot of that is some of the guys that we anticipate, counting on haven't been available.
Foster Moreau, another guy that you would venture to say is going to be part of the equation, catching passes, not to the degree that Juwan Johnson. He's not as explosive a playmaker as Juwan Johnson, but certainly a trusted veteran in the Saints offense.
Yeah, I think he's had a good camp. Look, he was limited in the spring. I think he's moving around a lot better right now than where he was at in the spring. I mean, I think, look, he's a guy that just is consistent in what he does. I probably wouldn't say there's anything flashy about what he does, but he consistently gets his job done.
That's old Foster. He's been pretty consistent since his days here in Baton Rouge. And we'll end on a positive note here because I want to end on a positive note. It's very important. I'm a bright and cheery guy. We'll finish talking about the red zone, which was not a positive point last year for the New Orleans Saints, especially early in the season. They were atrocious in the red zone. They figured some things out later, and they've certainly made that a point of emphasis in camp thus far. Last night was very good in the red zone for New Orleans by all accounts, including Ross Jackson's up on LouisianaSports.net. Derek Carr did a very good job of handling things in the red zone, and Dennis Allen spoke to the work that his offense has put in the red area.
Well, look, I thought it paid off in the game the other day. I think our ability to run the football in the red zone, I think, is important to having red zone success. I thought we did a good job of that on Sunday. And so, yeah, look, I mean, the key is when you get down in the red area, whether it be offensively or defensively, how many times defensively can we make our opponent have to kick field goals, or can we take the ball away? And then offensively, it's about scoring touchdowns. You're not going to win a lot of games if you're having to settle for a ton of field goals down there in the red area. You got to take advantage of your opportunities.
And maybe the biggest highlight was not in the red area. It was actually in the field goal kicking game where Charlie Smith hit a 65-yard field goal. Now, that said, 65-yard field goals are really cool. I'm more interested in who never misses from inside 50 as opposed to who can make it from 65. But it is cool. I don't think he's going to be the kicker. I think Groupie's going to win that job. But 65 yards is quite a boot.
Yeah, Dennis Allen, he talked about that, and there was actually like 3 questions that people asked about Charlie Smith, which was pretty interesting. But he did say, it's great that we can make a field goal from 65, but he's we don't want to be kicking field goals from 65 yards more very often. It's more about inside 50. Can you make it? And he said he's gotten more consistent through camp, but I think Groupie's probably going to, but I wouldn't be surprised if Smith gets on with another team because he's got a massive leg, and if he can dial it in, he could be one of the best kickers in the league.
This is completely off on a tangent, but let's just do it anyway. It's still August. Like, humans evolving is an amazing thing in sports. Like Victor Wembanyama 25 years ago, like you would have never imagined that would be a guy that was one of the best players in the world. They just didn't, nobody was like that. And Kevin Durant kind of paved the way for that, I guess. Field goal kicking, like 50 yards was like an absolute rocket like 20 years ago. And now that's like, we're going to make that. And now you're backing up. Like somebody's going to make a 70-yard field goal soon,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, probably, and especially with a lot of these guys that never played football from other sports. A lot of soccer guys. Charlie Smith, I think, maybe played rugby, and I think he played soccer as well. So a lot of these guys in these other sports are starting to realize that they can kick field goals and make a living out of it, and they have massive legs because they were, that's literally all they trained to do was kick balls. So, like, if you can kick a soccer ball, you can probably kick a football, and you could probably kick it 65 yards.
Do we have to credit Les Miles for this entire thing because he went to Australia and started finding punters?
Yeah, I mean,
is this the product of Les Miles farming Australia for punters?
I don't know if Les Miles was literally the first college football coach to try to recruit Australian guys to
probably
punt.
not, but he had back-to-back guys.
But he had some pretty good ones that did it. So and that's still happening to this day. I mean, the punter for the Saints, Lou Headley, last year he's Australian. So it's definitely a trend that I don't think is going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, guys can kick really far. That's your Saints report for the day. Brian Kelly just met with the media. LSU had an open practice with the media today. There were some folks absent. Miles Frazier in a boot. Sage Ryan not around. He updated the status of all those guys. We'll talk about it coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy. Check them out online, evolvept.com. Robbie Bolton, 20 years in the business of physical therapy. If you've been injured, whether it's in sports, whether it's in an accident, and you've gone to physical therapy and they've handed you a list of exercises to do at home that you could have pulled up on Google, that's not rehabilitation. It's not. That's a list printed off Google. Go to Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports and have it done properly. Get yourself back to feeling good and being your active self. Whether there's a youth athlete in your home that's 9 years old that's trying to rehabilitate, or you're 65 and trying to get off on the pickleball court or back to running every morning. If you're not feeling your best and you're an active person, Evolve Physical Therapy is for you. Evolve Physical Therapy is the physical therapy clinic here in Baton Rouge. They're on Starring near Highland Road. You can check them out online at evolvept.com. Trust the same guys that Kevin Gaussman trusts, that Austin Nola has trusted. Those guys have used their bodies to make a great living, gotten back to being healthy. You can do that as well with the folks at Evolve Physical Therapy. Check them out online, evolvept.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about.
This is Charles Handegriff. Join us for the Thursday edition of Live at Lunch from Walk-Ons. The original location, Burbank at Nicholson. We're inching ever closer to week 0. Professional sports handicapper Randy McKay is with us, and Dwayne Colucci from Las Vegas. Live at Lunch from Walk-Ons, 11 a.m. Thursday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
If you've enjoyed practice reports from LSU camp, wherever you get your practice reports over the last 3 weeks, I hope you enjoyed the last one today, because that was the last time the media will be allowed in to watch workouts. We were supposed to be able to go in on Saturday and watch the team practice inside Tiger Stadium. The decision was made, let's kick those guys out. So there will be no media access over the weekend. So today, the last day, and people went in, checked things out, and there were some injuries to report from LSU practice today. Brian Kelly updated the status of those injured guys in his post-practice media session. Sage Ryan missed practice. Kelly said he was dealing with a grade 1 hamstring injury. I'm not an orthopedic doctor. I don't know what that means in terms of a timetable. I'm hopeful that it's not a long time. But you're talking about defensive back, and you're talking about a hamstring. Like, that's something you need to be functioning pretty good to turn and run and keep up with the guys that are playing wide receiver for LSU and USC here in a week and a half. Sage Ryan has been working exclusively at cornerback. He's been basically opposite Ashton Stamps all of practice. In his stead today, you saw J.K. Johnson step in and play corner. It appears J.K. Johnson plays on the outside for LSU. Jair Brown plays in the nickel. That's kind of where those two guys have slotted in. So right now, I would imagine your starting secondary, if Sage Ryan weren't able to go, would be Ashton Stamps, J.K. Johnson, Jair Brown, and then at the back end, Jordan Gilbert and Jordan Allen, with Major Burns playing the star. That appears to be where things are headed right now. Kelly did not indicate that Sage Ryan would not be available coming up next Sunday. It sounds like they expect him to be available, but he is nursing that injury right now. West Weeks has a foot sprain. He was out there, I believe, in a walking boot today. That's a guy that's gotten some reps with the ones at linebacker. Right now, Greg Penn, Harold Perkins, and Whit Weeks are probably the first three, but West does come in, especially in goal line situations, to help the linebacking core, and so that's a guy you want to have around. There's not a ton of depth there. You get to the freshmen pretty quickly after the Weeks brothers, Penn and Perkins. I love that group 1 through 4, but you start to get to 5, 6, 7, you're starting to talk about Talon Singleton, Devon Keys, like freshmen who haven't really played. So important to get him back in action. Miles Frazier was in a walking boot at practice today as well. That's not something you want to see. LSU needs to keep that starting offensive line intact. It's going to be kind of the backbone of what this team is. I think that it's possible Tyree Adams is the fill-in at 4 of the 5 offensive line places except center. Maybe Dellinger would flip down to center if there was an injury to DJ Chester. Cohen Eccles has been working with the twos as a center, but he's a true freshman. I don't know if they would put him in there. But if you needed Miles Frazier, you needed a sub for Miles Frazier, I think Tyree Adams might be it across the board right now. That's kind of the vibes I got from Brian Kelly's media back over the weekend. So, look, Kelly described all these injuries as bumps and bruises of camps. He did suggest that the injuries should clear up this week, and they should be a full go for preparation for USC. So that's not even talking about the game a week from Sunday. That's talking about preparing for the game coming up next week. The last name on the injury list was Chris Hilton. Kelly said he's got a bone bruise and should be back this weekend, hopefully on Saturday, to work out. I just am hoping that this is not something that lingers for Chris Hilton. He's worked so hard to get back into shape and to play and to have the success that some of the guys that he came in have had. Remember, he came in with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas and was thought of as a very similarly recruited player to those two guys. They were all 4-star recruits, all from the state of Louisiana, brought in this big class to make an impact, and Malik Neighbors becomes the all-time leader in catches and yards in LSU history. Brian Thomas was leading the country in touchdowns about all of last year. He goes in the first round as well. Like, now Chris Hilton's still here, and he's really here mostly because he hasn't been able to stay on the field. And he's had such a great camp. He's looked so good, so explosive, so dynamic down the field, and now dealing with a bone bruise on his he suffered the injury, came down awkwardly in 7-on-7 over the weekend and just not feeling great. So we'll see if he can get back this weekend. Brian Kelly indicated that he should have. all in all, like that sounds terrible for me to go through and say, oh my gosh, Sage Ryan's a starting corner. He didn't practice. Oh my gosh, West Weeks plays a lot at linebacker. He's not there. Your starting offensive lineman, Miles Frazier's not there. My gosh, Chris Hilton's your number 2 receiver, and he's not there. Like, this is getting – no, it's not that bad. Like, these guys are expected to be back. And all in all, when you put it all together, LSU has stayed pretty healthy in camp. You've had some guys miss time here or there, but nothing substantial thus far, fingers crossed. That's a testament to the guys getting in shape and ready to go at it, and a testament to the coaching staff for keeping those guys healthy as best they can. There's nothing you can do about some things, but as far as the heat and the time that you practice and the efficiency with which you practice, like, it's a well-oiled machine over there at LSU, and I think that has something to do with the fact that they've stayed as healthy as they have. So if you're just jumping in and I'm talking about these injuries and you don't know what I'm talking about, Sage Ryan, West Weeks, Miles Frazier, Chris Hilton among those that couldn't practice today, but Brian Kelly expects all those guys to return pretty shortly, and they'll start preparation for USC in earnest, coming up in the next couple of days. We're not that far away from kickoff in Las Vegas, just how many days? That'll be 7, and then you add Saturday, Friday, Thursday. That's like 10 days. we can make it 10 days, and LSU hopes to make it 10 days with no more injuries as they get ready to open the season out in Vegas against the Trojans. Moving right along here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you're looking for some LSU sports coverage, do so at LouisianaSports.net. We got Brian Kelly's injury update posted on the website right now. There are some other features up. We've got a practice report from Saints last night by Ross Jackson, who went really into detail. I've got an in-depth chart series that talks about all the positions on the field today. Happened to be cornerback. They that Sage Ryan didn't practice, but he's featured pretty heavily in that. So if you're looking for some reading material, Saints and LSU, you can find it on LouisianaSports.net, all 100% for free. Steve Schneider's going to join us in about 35 minutes, talk about some new projects he's got with the LHSA on the television side of things. Still got to hear about Field Yates' mock draft. LSU basketball's got a schedule releases out as well. But we have a segment to do next called What If Wednesday. We're going to get to it. I'm going to you, YouTube chat, for some what ifs. If you've got what ifs in the YouTube chat and they're not completely ridiculous, well, maybe if they are completely ridiculous, we'll get to those, plus those submissions that are on Twitter as well. Come back with us. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com is the website. Mitchell Fisher and his local team, just fantastic to work with. Whether it's audio, video, security, they've got you covered. Football season is here. Make your home the place to watch all the big games. Put in that surround sound. Get that big television mounted up on the wall. If you don't even know where to start there, Mitchell Fisher and his team can supply the television, and you can get it at an affordable rate from the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions. We've had them work at our house. We've been thrilled with, 1, the installation, and 2, the customer service that goes with it. Check them out on Instagram, AVSS_BR. It shows you some great indications of the things that they can do for you, whether it's indoor, whether it's outdoor, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial. If it's audio, if it's video, if it's security, they can handle it at Audio Video Security Solutions. The website is avssla.com. Mitchell Fisher's personal cell phone, the owner of the company, 225-439-7920. People's Choice Award for the best vendor at the Parade of Homes this year. It's Audio Video Security Solutions.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today. Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. Tigers back on the practice field. Brian Kelly meets with reporters after. We'll have the latest. And Saints getting ready for their final preseason game. Join us, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Excited to chat with Steve Schneider in 30 minutes. Steve gave me my first gig in media. I was an intern at Channel 9 back in the summer of 2009. It was a good summer to do it. Tigers won the national championship in baseball. And then the next year, I got on with Shea Dixon at Scout and did a little bit of work there. That's where I met Derek Bonamsky, and that's where I got my job offer for Bayou Bengals Insider, and that's when I started coming on after Further Review with Matt Moscona on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, and now I'm here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, and that's why I'm writing on LouisianaSports.net. Everything comes together because of Steve Schneider back, how many years ago was that? 15 years ago. Sheesh! Hate to see that. All right, it's What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
All right, first one here. What if a Vegas first-timer asked you for advice?
Oh man, for next week. I mean, I'm not a Vegas veteran. I've been to Vegas twice. Been to Las Vegas twice. Try to get some sleep. That would be one piece of advice.
Important.
I did not do that the first time I went. I tried to stay out too late and get up early and play golf, and it was too hot, and I almost passed out. That's the only time I've ever had like a heat-related incident in my life was in Vegas, trying to stay up until 4 and then play golf at 8. Get a little bit of sleep. Understand on the way out there, it is really, 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 really expensive. I have seen a single breakfast room service order of $80 there on multiple occasions for like not extravagant things. Avocado toast, some bacon, coffee, and a biscuit. Or like it. I mean, it is really expensive. So you got to understand that before you get out there. The only time it's not expensive is if you're sitting at a table gambling. They will bring you whatever it is that you need if you're there. tempting to give them some money. I would spend a little bit of time in a sports book. The vibes are really interesting in there, especially on that Saturday as well. And here's just a little tip, and this is maybe my pessimism coming in, maybe my practicality coming in. This was actually my plan if I was going to Las Vegas. Before I walked over to that stadium, if I was going to go, which I'm not now, I was going to go put $100 on USC to win the game. That's called an emotional hedge. And if LSU wins, I'm happy to ditch the $100, light it on fire. If LSU loses, I got $100 more to go play blackjack with. So that's some minor advice from a guy who's been to Vegas 2 times and hadn't seen it all.
All right, next one here. What if you pitched in the Little League World Series today?
Oh man, I haven't thrown a baseball like hard in over a decade. I would think I could probably throw 60, 65 miles an hour, and that's not going to overpower those kids.
No, they got kids throwing 80 out there.
They got kids throwing 80. So I think I could be relatively effective against the 12-year-olds.
I don't know,
but I don't think I would dominate. I think I could put a quality start. What's a quality start in Little League? It's a 6-inning game. I think I can give you 4 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs.
I don't know about that, huh? These kids are pretty good.
Have you seen my split finger?
No, I haven't.
No, I've never thrown a split finger, so no one's ever seen it. I could break that out against the kids. You know what I would do for sure? I would drop down submarine. I could do that. That's what you used to do warming up, like in high school and stuff. I'd give it to him from all the arm
angles.
slots.
Yeah. All right, next one. What if
that's a funny one? What if I played in the Little League World Series?
What if the Cubs had re-signed Javier Baez, Anthony Rizzo, and Chris Bryant?
They'd be really bad now because those guys can't play a lick.
Yeah, I wonder though if you keep that core together, I guess you can probably assume that they will play as bad as they have in the last few years, but is there a chance that maybe they still continue to play maybe better than they have? I don't know.
I don't think so. I think those guys are toast. I think that the Cubs saw the writing on the wall.
What happened? Like they just forgot how to play baseball? Like I don't understand.
No, they just got older and they just can't hit. It's over.
Okay. Fair enough. Moving on. We got a few here from the chat. What if LSU had beaten Florida State to open the season last year? Would that change the whole season? They're in their record as well. Obviously, it would change their record because they'd have another win.
You'd have been, 10-2, and
but still not.
I mean, you're not going to make the playoff. You've got
maybe you get New Year's 6. But
you got Alabama who beat you, and they would have won the West. And then you're not going to. I mean, Georgia was undefeated through the season, didn't get in the playoffs, so it changes your bowl destination. You go to one of the good bowls instead of the ReliaQuest Bowl. I'm a little embarrassed to tell you, I did the pre and post game show for the ReliaQuest Bowl. I covered the team. I talked about the ReliaQuest Bowl on here. Before I started writing season preview stuff, I probably couldn't have told you what bowl game LSU played in last year.
That's fair.
It's just they are so off the radar.
Yeah.
And they have weird names now. It's not. It's a little easier. A Sugar Bowl. They went to the Orange Bowl. They went to the Fiesta Bowl. The ReliaQuest Bowl. That doesn't work for me.
No. It's not great. But anyways, moving on. Next one here. What if Dave Aranda was promoted to head coach instead of Ed Orgeron?
That's interesting. Anything, the butterfly effect of anything that happens in that time that takes the 2009 season away from us is not worth trying to figure out. I am happy to have gone through the 2020 and 2021 seasons because we got to see 2019. It's just one of those deals. Like, I am okay with the fact that LSU in my lifetime has never gone on a Saban-esque run where they're winning a national championship every 2 years. I'm okay with the fact that LSU's football program is not dominating at the level that Georgia's is. That would be fine if they were, but that's not my expectation because it just doesn't happen very often. So I'm not in a spot where I can just throw one national championship away because there were 2 bad years that followed it. I think if Dave Aranda was given the opportunity to be the head coach at LSU, he probably would have won a lot of games because they would have given him a big budget to hire assistants, and he would have done a really good job with the defense. I implicitly trusted Dave Aranda to figure out how to stop teams every single Saturday. I can still see myself from the press box looking down at that bald head that was inevitably 25 yards ahead of the play, which is where he stood both directions behind his defense. And I just thought he'll figure it out. And I thought he was awesome at it. And I think he would do a good job. LSU, the head coaching job at LSU is not easy. I would never suggest that it's easy. but you have some real inherent benefits of being there. And I think a lot of coaches, if given the opportunity, could do a good job at LSU. A lot of them couldn't put that 2019 product on the field. You got to have a lot of stars aligned to do that. And I don't want to diminish what Les did over his time here, because that's an impressive run. But there's a reason that 3 coaches in a row have won championships here. And so I don't know if Dave Aranda would have won a national championship, but I think he would have had a lot of really good teams.
All right, I got a few more from the chat here. What if Les Miles turned down LSU and stayed at Oklahoma State? Who was the next option?
I have no idea. I really don't. I can't go back that far. I was in high school, and I'm certain that Charlie or Jimmy could give you 2 names right off the top of their head that were the guys. I remember Nick Saban leaving. I was a junior in high school when that happened, but I can't go back far enough to give you the next name on any given list. I don't even know why Les Miles was even like. That's a weird hire to make with a middling Oklahoma State coach who was like, okay.
Right. All right, and we got another one here. What if LSU plays in Dublin eventually? Would you make the trip?
If LSU paid for it or guarantee paid for it. I think that would be interesting. This is a huge character flaw of mine. I don't care about other cultures. I don't care to see. That's not something that I seek out. I would much rather go to Orange Beach, Alabama than Beijing, China. Like, I'm comfortable on the beach with a beer that I got from the gas station down the street ordering pizza. I don't need to go see the whole world. That's not something. If I'm going over to Europe and it's me that's booking the travel, I'm playing the Scotland Links golf courses. That's really the only thing I have interest in doing over there. So the Dublin experience probably be cool. Is it something that I'm going to dump a bunch of cash into? Probably not.
All right, next one here. What if ESPN/Kirk Herbstreit hadn't leaked the Les Miles to Michigan job news?
I still don't think he goes. I think that it was one of those deals, and it could have been the very same thing with Jim Schlossnagle this year. Just one of those deals where the job came open, the timing didn't work. Les had put his life's work into coaching, and he had a chance to win his first national championship. And yes, the mothership was calling, but you just can't leave. And I think that's the way he felt about that situation. I don't think it was just because Kirk said that he decided to stay. I think he was just going to stay. And I could have seen a situation where I could be wrong. Michael Caldwell just texted me and said he was going to go to Michigan. I don't know. And if that's the reason he stayed, what a wild circumstance that is. And who knows what the butterfly effect of that is. But again, that's another situation where I was a sophomore in high school, and I was there in Atlanta that day. A lot of natty lights were had, I believe, before that game. But that's crazy. If he takes that job, I don't know. I'm not good enough with time to go back and determine who the search was.
Yeah.
I can't. I know that Rich Rodriguez and Alabama were knee deep in it at one point before Saban got hired, but I can't do it for every hire.
Yeah, I also see someone in the chat said Bobby Petrino was going to be the next LSU coach.
I think Skip liked Bobby Petrino a lot. I like that dynamic. And look, that guy was on the cutting edge of offense at that point in time. I don't know that I want to have beer with him anytime soon, but he was really good at that point. What he did at Arkansas was incredible. Those were good football teams he had for that 2-year run before he quote unquote wrecked the bike.
Yeah. Also, Champ is saying that Jack Del Rio apparently.
I remember that too. Now Jack Del Rio had a daughter at LSU that was right a year below me.
Okay.
And so there was always a tie there that people said. Didn't John Gruden have a kid at Tennessee?
Yeah, right.
And so that type of thing always used to crop up.
All right, that's all we got.
That's all we got. All right. How about that? Good job, chat. I might be hitting the chat up for some more. Twitter usually gives me some good stuff, but the chat really came through with some solid stuff there for What If Wednesday. I like Dave Aranda calling the defense. Those were good defenses.
Yeah.
Last year's LSU defense was not great.
Yeah, and I think just on the Aranda thing, I'm not gonna say that because he hasn't done very well at Baylor that he couldn't have done well at LSU. It's a whole different deal. But it is an interesting thought. I think with him. It also always depends on too is if he can actually get some good offensive coordinators in and somebody that can run the offense, because he's not going to have any kind of say in that. So
no, I can talk about David Aranda all day because he's the most fascinating interview I've done in the pregame world. I've interviewed every assistant LSU's had for 7 years, and all the coordinators, position coaches, recruiting coordinators, strength and conditioning coaches, all of them. And it's very, very short interaction. It's a total of 6 minutes. I walk in, pull a chair up next to their desk, say, "Hey, Coach, I'm with the network. Like, I'm not here to necessarily break any news. We're just going to do a quick interview that's going to play before the pregame show. I'm going to ask you about your guys. All right, let's go." And I record it, and it's 3 minutes, and I get out of there. But Aranda, his office had more binders in it than you can, it just had so many binders. He had, BYU, I think, was the first game, and he had 4 binders on his desk full of paper with the BYU logo on them. And then you ask him one question, he goes 2 minutes and 50 seconds. I don't have another question to ask you, because that's the whole thing. Some guys are real quick to the point. Aranda would talk forever. He was good. Great job, defensive coordinator here at LSU. We'll come back and close out hour number 1 coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Visit LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino this summer for live, exciting sports action. LeBear's has the biggest screens around, and ESPN Bet is live in Louisiana. Plus, Pin Play Rewards members can win up to $500 in pin cash every single week. If you're not a member, visit pinplaysports.com, cover 5 today, and register for your chance to play and win. LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino, your live sports headquarters. Bring your crew for all the action. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 877-770-STOP.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Moscone.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless
you at Mountain Cold.
On Thursday's OTB, we continue to get you ready for Saints preseason game number 3. Plus, the latest from LSU training camp. They got to take on USC. And Munchies with Chef Michael Johnson. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Try to keep things local on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Talked a lot of Saints today. We've talked some LSU football as well, and we'll continue to do that in hour number 2. Got some LSU basketball schedule news that I want to get to, and we'll talk a number of things in the second hour, including our chat with Steve Schneider. The Broncos are not local, but I am interested in the Broncos because obviously Sean Payton's still there, and the dynamic that existed between Brady and Belichick was interesting when they split because Brady immediately picked things up and won a Super Bowl, and everything kind of crumbled under Belichick in New England. I personally don't think that nullifies his legacy as perhaps the greatest coach in NFL history. I don't think that. But some people can make that case. And Sean Payton now has to leave the Drew Brees era behind, where a lot of people would suggest he was among the best head coaches in the NFL, a championship coach, Hall of Fame coach. And now you've got to recreate it somewhere else. And Denver's a great organization. You've heard Jacob Hester talk very fondly about how well they treat their players, their coaches, their families, and they support them, and they've won a lot in Denver over the years. But Peyton's got to do it again, and he doesn't have the quarterback yet, at least we think. And you're looking at the Zach Wilson. I can't even say Zach Wilson's name without laughing. Zach Wilson, Jarrett Stidham competition. You're going, this is a disaster. And then they draft Bo Nix. And yeah, he's a little undersized, and yeah, he's a really good athlete. Is he Drew Brees? No. But can Sean Payton make this work? And Nix has looked pretty good in the preseason. That doesn't matter a lot. It would matter more if he looked atrocious in the preseason. That would suggest he's maybe not ready to do anything in the NFL. But he's been good, and today they named him the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos. He will be the starter on September 8th when they open things up in Seattle. And he'll be the first Denver rookie to start the regular season opener since John Elway in 1983. Now, we're very familiar with Bo Nix. One, you saw him play for a couple of years in Auburn. He snapped Auburn's 20-year losing streak in Tiger Stadium with an absolutely ridiculous performance that I don't think he recreated any other point in his time at Auburn, but he did that day. And then he went up to Oregon, and we were watching him pretty closely last year because the Heisman Trophy kind of fell between Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, and we were obviously pulling for the home guy. So we needed Washington to win that game in the Pac-12 championship, and they did. But Beck, I'm curious if you think that Bo Nix and Sean Payton are going to be a marriage that works.
It could be, but it's always a question of rookie quarterbacks or young quarterbacks and whether or not they can actually perform well. I don't. The thing is do the Broncos have a good roster around him?
They don't.
They don't. So if he doesn't have any weapons, if he doesn't have any good pass catchers, if they don't have a great offensive line, then it doesn't really matter how good Bo Nix is. I mean, the Saints, when they got Drew Brees, they had a pretty solid offensive line. They had a lot of guys that were really
pretty solid offensive line. Is fair. That was
they were really
the best
good
offensive line in the NFL.
Yeah, so that helps a lot. And so if they don't have that, I don't think it really matters who the quarterback is. But I think Sean Payton is a good coach and a good coach of quarterbacks, and I think he can get the best out of Bo Nix. But if they don't have a good offensive line, it doesn't matter.
I was pretty impressed with Sean Payton's ability to get the team to the finish line at the end of the Brees era when Brees went out. And you got Teddy Bridgewater in there and you're winning games, and you played Taysom Hill at quarterback, and it looked real ugly, but they won games. And that, while it's a small sample size and a different circumstance, I think does indicate that he can do it without Drew Brees, just not quite at the level that he did it with Drew Brees. And I'm curious how his legacy will be looked at if it doesn't work with Bo Nix and eventually it doesn't work in Denver. My gut tells me he will figure it out. I don't know if it's with Bo Nix or not. And maybe if it's not with Bo Nix, he won't have time because you really kind of only get one real crack at it in the NFL. But perhaps Sean Payton's got enough skins on the wall in the league that Denver will will be very patient with him. I don't think it's going to go great this year with Bo Nix because, again, I don't think that roster is very good. But maybe you have 1 year where he kind of licks your wounds and then you take off after that. And if Sean Payton does get things figured out with Bo Nix and becomes a threat in a really difficult division and then in a really difficult conference full of ridiculously good quarterbacks, he would, in my estimation, kind of cement himself as one of the best coaches of this generation that deserves to be mentioned with Tomlin. Not necessarily Belichick, because that's just a different stratosphere, but certainly with Tomlin and some of the guys of that ilk. Not Andy Reid either, because he's done it in two different places. But it's interesting because it does have ties back here to New Orleans, where the Saints are trying to scramble and figure something out to get beyond that era. And Sean Payton kind of, to an extent, is doing the same thing, just in a different place with a different color hoodie on. So Bo Nix is the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos when they line things up against the Seahawks in the opener. We talked a little bit of Saints at the top of the show. They were in action yesterday last night uptown. Injury updates from Brian Kelly on LSU. You can catch both of those at Hunt on Saints and Hunt on LSU. It was What If Wednesday. Had a lot of good ones from the chat, so we appreciate y'all for getting that done. If you missed any of it, you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can always find us. We got a busy hour 2 to come. Steve Schneider, formerly of WAFB, got a great new venture, game of the week in high school that we're going to talk about. Plus, I want to get some Steve's thoughts on the Tigers this year because he's been around this market a long time. Field Yates mock draft to get to as well. LSU basketball schedule. Come back after SportsCenter. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Back to school savings at Bayou Ford. $12,000 off F-150. $12,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And $10,000 off Expedition. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Back to school savings at Bayou Ford. $12,000 off F-150. $12,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And $10,000 off Expedition. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast office products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. The decision has been made in Denver. Rookie Bo Nix named starting quarterback, will be the first Broncos rookie to start the regular season opener since John Elway more than 4 decades ago. ESPN NFL analyst Booger McFarland.
You go back to the workout where Sean Payton gave him the playbook the night before. He comes out the next day and he can basically regurgitate the playbook. He goes out, makes all the throws. We knew this was trending toward this months ago. And so for Sean Payton to come out and take all the suspense out of it, I think it's good for the organization. It's good for Bo Nix. Now let's see if he can perform once the ball is kicked off for real in a couple of weeks.
The Broncos open up the season September 8th in Seattle. Steelers quarterback Russell Wilson said he expects to play in Saturday's preseason finale against Detroit. He and Justin Fields competing for the starting job. Basketball Hall of Famer Al Attles, one of the first black head coaches in the NBA, who coached the 1975 NBA champion Warriors and spent more than 6 decades with the organization, has died at the age of 87. Nebraska named true freshman Dylan Raiola its starting quarterback.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Canty, coming up Thursday, AFC North, NFC North, and NFC West. I'll tell you which division is clearly the best in football. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Fields Yates has got a mock draft out on ESPN for the NFL draft, even though we haven't started football season yet. Got the Saints taking an LSU Tiger. We'll talk about that coming up here in 15 minutes. And much, much more here in hour number 2. But very, very excited to welcome into the show a guy that I've known since the summer of 2009. Gave me a gig as an intern over at WAFB Channel 9, where he was a sports director for decades. He, of course, is Steve Schneider. Steve, thanks for the time. How are you?
Hunt, I'm good, and I'm actually talking from the Schneider Golf Mechanics headquarters. So thank you for doing spots for my son's business. It's thriving and going crazy. When I try to get out of my office, I can't even get the door open because there's so many golfers lined up, and I got to wait till they hit their shot. So
how's your swing?
Appreciate that. Oh, I don't have time to swing a club. Come on, man. It's football season.
I know it, and that's really exciting, especially from a prep perspective. And I know y'all got some really, really exciting things going on with the game of the week. So kind of introduce us as we get back into prep football here with what y'all have going on at the LHSAA.
Yeah, so you might not know, we didn't do a full season last year. There were a lot of holdups with the contract. We didn't have anything signed until the end of August. We did 2 games last year. The Catholic Zachary overtime game in Week 10 at Memorial, and Kentwood Southern Lab that went down to the last play. We did a total of 10 football games, and 80% of them, 8 of them, were fantastic, down to the last play type stuff. So that's what we want. We don't necessarily want to recycle the same big names, big schools all the time. They'll get their coverage for sure in the playoffs and when we do the championships down in the Superdome. But we did want to take a few things into consideration putting this schedule together, especially with our first year. Football should be on Friday night, right? So we don't want people moving games to Thursday unless there's really a good reason for it. So, for example, we could have talked to Calvary Baptist and Oak Grove, move that game to week 1 Thursday night for our first game. But you know what? There are plenty of good games out there, plenty of good matchups. We just want a good game that people can get behind and enjoy watching, kind of like Monday Night Football for the high school kids, right?
That's
so we
right.
came out of the gate with a Baton Rouge, New Orleans matchup. David Semino and Central, they were 1 point from beating Dutchtown. Dutchtown was basically 1 out of 2 days from getting to the Superdome. Central is a program on the rise, and they're playing at Tad Gormley against De La Salle, which, except for last year and off year, they usually win 9 or 10 games every year. So I feel like a good venue, a good ball game. People will be excited to watch that. Week 2, you could do Zachary Acadiana. You could do St. Thomas More Catholic. But how about Bunkie and St. Louis Catholic? That's the game we picked. We want to do public schools, private schools, parochial schools. We want to give them all an equal shot. And these are 2 teams that were really good last year. Bunkie started 7-0. They got 16 starters back. They finished 10-2. Very similar story for St. Louis Catholic. They wanted to play each other because what do you want to do in the regular season? You want to get yourself ready for the playoff competition you're going to see. Bunkie is a select school, so they needed to up their schedule. They added Central Catholic and St. Louis Catholic to their schedule. I mentioned we also want to do public and private. So week 3 is JFK and Santa Ma, 2 9-1 teams last year. They each were 1-1 in the playoffs, so 10-2. I actually went to that game last year. Very competitive, lots of good players, and man, it's at the Pit. When I started covering high school, Channel 9 had never been to an EA Santa Ma game. They had never been to the Pit. I went to that place. There were 7,000 people standing 10 deep. The BBC was there covering it. We got to do a game from the Pit, so we worked that out for game week number 3. And then week 4, Notre Dame, Louis Cook, legend, just had a book written about him. His team's always good. Catholic New Iberia is the host team. They're also good. 5, 6, 7, and 8, it's flexed. How do you know how good the teams are actually going to be? A player gets hurt, something happens, they go on probation. So that's where we're going to pick our wild card games. Then we'll finish up with U-High, Madison Prep, championship caliber programs, lots of good athletes in Memorial Stadium. And then we'll do the rematch of Catholic and Zachary from last year, which went to overtime, and a coach pulled out a rule book to show the officials they had the wrong call, which decided the game. So I think we did pretty good.
That's pretty good. I think you did fantastic. Look, you've obviously been at the forefront of this for decades, and how passionate people are about high school football and how great the product is here in South Louisiana. Can you speak to the growth of what you've seen over 3 decades in high school sports here in the state of Louisiana, and then specifically how great it is that y'all can now put that on television?
Well, as a kid who came from Hattiesburg, Mississippi as a basketball player, it didn't take me long to figure out that football rules this state, and it was always good, and the athletes have always been good. And I was like, why aren't we doing more on this? Like, why aren't we covering all these teams and going to all these towns? And that's how Sportsline was created. And we did that for a couple of years. Ed Daniels worked with us. He was in between jobs at the time, and of course we'll be at his funeral tomorrow. He's a guy that I can't even express how much I admired and loved that guy. But he took the same concept and went to New Orleans, and after 2 years, it's football Friday night and Sportsline Friday night, and then every other station in the state eventually had a show. I think we did impact the sport. My sport, basketball, actually probably got hurt because a lot of kids who would opt for basketball back then in the 80s, man, everybody who was anybody, Bobby Knight, Jim Calhoun, Boeheim, they'd all come to Louisiana, especially New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette for D1 talent. That kind of went away. I think we had maybe something to do with that because we did so much football. The kids wanted that coverage. A guy like Marcus Spears or Michael Clayton, huge basketball prospects, end up playing football, signing with LSU, helped them get a national championship. But it wasn't really my fault that we didn't do basketball because Ed and I actually did a basketball show with my intern, Victor Howe, that was awesome, and sales couldn't sell it, so it went away after 1 year. This network is just the embodiment of all of that. We actually did a show back in like 2010. Aaron Cofield helped us do it, called Sportsline Overtime. It was all those other sports, and the ratings were like 2.5 times to 1 over Saturday Night Live, a household name and program. So people here love their high school sports. They love all their kids getting coverage if they work hard and they're talented and they deserve that coverage because it's the best, I would say, reality television in the world.
No question. It's fantastic, and I'm thrilled that y'all are going to be able to do that. You mentioned Ed Daniels, and I know that you go back a long time with Ed. We were all so saddened to hear of what happened out in California and eventually his death earlier this week. Can you just speak to just how great he was and his presence down there in New Orleans?
Well, like I said, I admired him. He was way better than me. Such a great journalist, thoroughly prepared on everything. We thought a lot the same way. Like we love covering Super Bowls and the Saints. We love covering LSU and all the college stuff. But we had that same enthusiasm and love for high school sports because that's where it all starts. You don't have any college stars or any NFL stars until they play high school. So we shared that. As I mentioned, he was out of a job. WDSU let him go. He was in between jobs. He worked with us. He loved the concept, and he brought his station. I ended up working with him. I did a show called Tim Brando's Southern Style for a while, and he did some extra income, so I did some work on his shows. We worked together for 20 years until Katrina hit. WBRZ brought their station in to broadcast here, and when they were going out the door, they said, "You don't owe us anything except Ed and Steve can't ever work together again," because we were doing too much good coverage of high school sports, and they didn't want to have to compete with that. So we've been friends the other 20 years. Hunt, the sad thing about it is he had told me, and I didn't really understand what he was saying at the time, but he told me, "I don't think I can make it through this next year." And I thought he meant like he might have to retire. ABC getting the LSU and SEC contract on top of Saints, on top of the high school show, not enough resources. We talked about him coming to work with us so he could get out of that pressure cooker. We never got enough sponsors, enough money to make that happen. And sadly, I'll be going to his funeral tomorrow instead. But anytime somebody mentions his name, I just get goosebumps because this guy, he was so funny and yet so serious, so passionate. I wasn't quite as irritated when things didn't go well as he is. I mean, he let it all hang out. But you got to understand, my first year in the business, when he was at WDSU, WAFB and DSU were founded by the same people. So I worked when I'd go to New Orleans, we would work with Buddy Diliberto, Vince Marinella, Ro Brown, Ed Daniels, and their photographer, Steve Peretti. Unbelievable collection of talent and personality, and man, did they bicker and fight all the time. So it was the experience of a lifetime to work with that guy. I loved him to death. And I can only hope that we can honor his memory by doing the same kind of thing he would have done if he had been able to join us and work on this network.
Very, very well said. Steve, really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hunt.
He is Steve Schneider. Lots of great high school football coverage coming from him and the folks over there with the LHSAA. When we come back, mock draft. Are the Saints going to take a Tiger? Field Yates thinks maybe. We'll talk about it next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, I've told this story a few times. Our first home that Alyssa and I lived in was fantastic. It was a great place to bring our first kid into the world. The closet situation was atrocious. It was just really, really bad, and it drove Alyssa nuts. I didn't really care that much. I'll put my clothes wherever I can figure them out. Alyssa did not feel that way. So when we decided we were going to move, she prioritized closet space, and the house we now live in has a great closet setup, and it has made a world of difference. If you don't want to move to have that upgrade with your closet, One Bath and Closets is the only call you need to make. David Duvall and his team have been doing this for 30 years. They will customize a closet to your specific needs. If you've got a ton of shoes, you got a ton of suits that you need, whether it's a two-person household or just one, he can customize a closet just for you, and it's going to be great. It's going to be functional, and it's going to look awesome as well. Go to the website, onebathandclosets.com. and check out pictures of the great work. You can get that free consultation. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you to One Bath and Closets, $1,000 off. It's One Bath and Closets. You can find them at onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way.
This is Charles Hannigrove. Join us for the Thursday edition of Live at Lunch from Walk-Ons. The original location, Burbank at Nicholson. We're inching ever closer to week 0. Professional sports handicapper Randy McKay is with us, and Dwayne Colucci from Las Vegas. Live at Lunch from Walk-Ons, 11 a.m. Thursday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So no one has kicked off football, regular season, college, high school, pro, nobody. Preseason games, sure. Scrimmages, yeah. I don't think there's been a jamboree yet. But we got a mock draft for the spring, because it's never too early to do a mock draft, is it? Field Yates at ESPN decided to bust out the old mock draft machine. And it's very interesting from both local angles. It's very interesting from the Saints angle. It's very interesting from the LSU angle as well. And those two come together for the first pick that I'm going to talk about here, which is number 10 overall. That's where he's got the New Orleans Saints picking. Unfortunately, that sounds pretty realistic. I can see a scenario where New Orleans picks 10th. And at that point, you are within striking distance of a quarterback. You are. You'd probably rather be in the top 4, if we're being honest. But like at 10, you're in kind of quarterback range. Now, you're going to have Derek Carr on the team for next year, but Field Yates says, I think that the quarterback position would be an interesting topic here, but I'm not going to go there. And where he does go is fascinating. Will Campbell, offensive tackle, LSU. I'm kind of hopeful that Will Campbell's not on the board at 10 as an LSU guy. Like, I think that's could potentially be a top 5 pick. But in this situation, he is there, and he's got the Saints taking him. We all think that Trevor Penning, no, I shouldn't say that. I think that Trevor Penning is toast. I don't think Trevor Penning is ever going to be a quality NFL offensive lineman.
I think most people
are. But I don't want to speak for everyone. That's not fair.
Not everybody.
I don't want to speak for every person. I think Trevor's mom probably thinks he's got a chance, so I don't want to speak for her. But for me, personally, I don't think he's got a chance. So you would go back to the well and draft another offensive lineman in the first round. Keep in mind, you took Eric McCoy in the first round in 19. You took Cesar Ruiz in the first round in 20. You took Penning in the first round in 22. And then you turn around and take Fuaga in the first round in 24. That is 4 first-round picks in 5 years. That is a remarkable commitment and honestly suggests that you're making some mistakes. And while the rest of your roster gets older, Cam Jordan's getting older, Mario Davis is getting older, Alvin Kamara's getting older, Tyrann Mathieu's getting older, Marshawn Lattimore's getting older. All these guys are getting older, and you're not replacing them with first-round picks. You keep firing them away at the offensive line. Now, this pick does make sense, although I've got my reservations with it, because Campbell's a true left tackle. And you've drafted Fuaga, and you could move him to right tackle, his more comfortable place, and you could play Campbell at left tackle, and I think that would make some sense. But man, would you like to address some other areas of your roster than keep going back to the well on offensive line. But if you were listening an hour ago when I was talking about the Saints, we were talking about, like, what's the one thing that could send this thing into a free fall this season? It's offensive line. I gave you the line. I was like, I don't think Derek Carr is going to throw 20-plus picks. I don't. I don't think the defense is all of a sudden going to be 26th in the NFL in scoring defense. I don't. The big crash and burn is if the offense can't protect and run block, and Carr can't move, and then you're stagnant, and you can't scheme out of that. So for that reason, it does make sense to try to address that. There's probably a bunch of you that are sitting there going, the Saints never take LSU guys. I don't think that's true. They took Will Clapp. They signed Tyrann Mathieu. They signed Jarvis Landry. They've gotten some LSU guys into the fold. Maybe Will Campbell is next among them. That's certainly what Field Yates thinks here at number 10. Speaking of LSU, as we kind of continue on here, they do have 3 players in this mock draft. The next one is number 16, and that's Emory Jones. Emory Jones goes 16th to the Cleveland Browns here as a first-round selection. Keep in mind, LSU has not had a first-round pick at offensive line since Alan Faneca in 1998. They have never had a draft where 2 offensive linemen went in the first round, and Will Campbell would be the highest selected LSU offensive lineman ever at number 10. So this would be some historic stuff from an LSU perspective, having 2 tackles go in the first 16 picks. And that, as we sit here in August, should make you feel really good. It's probably going to make us frantic next spring when you're trying to replace those 2 guys on the edge. But for now, realizing you got 2 guys that the NFL thinks are first-round selections playing at the offensive tackle spots, that's a pretty good place to start on offense. As far as defense goes, Harold Perkins is in the first round of this draft. He is at number 23 to the Houston Texans. I'll read this excerpt from Field Yates' mock draft. It says, the Texans are in really good shape across the board. This team is littered with young talent on both sides of the ball. Must be nice, says the New Orleans Saints guy that covers them. Perkins is an interesting evaluation with the quickness to play in a lot of different spots. That said, he's set to return to inside linebacker in 2024, and that's where I believe he's best suited to play. Perkins has just sufficient size for the position at 6'1", 220. Plus, his super speed and ability allows him to do a little bit of everything, and that should appeal to a coach like D'Amico Ryans, who played linebacker himself. It would be cool to see Harold Perkins and Derek Stingley, 2 of the best defensive players at LSU in the last 5 years, playing on the same unit over there at Texas. Harold Perkins' draft year is very interesting. Like, Will Campbell and Emory Jones are kind of what they're going to be. They're just really good tackles. We don't know what Harold Perkins is going to be because we haven't seen Blake Baker's plan for him. We all have our thoughts. We all have our preferences. There are some LSU fans that say put him on the line of scrimmage, tell him to rush the passer. That's it. Try to win games. You got people that are suggesting, like me, that you got to allow him to play on the inside. You have to allow him to cover a little bit because you have to allow his game to develop so that he can play professionally. You do, in my estimation, have some modicum of responsibility of developing players to get to the NFL. It's not goal number 1. Goal number 1 is to win. That's obvious. But part of winning is recruiting elite players. Part of recruiting elite players is selling them on the fact that you can develop them to get rich. And if you break off that chain at some point, it doesn't work. If you bring in a 5-star in Harold Perkins and you put him in a position where he can't develop to be an NFL player, and he loses draft stock and then dollars because of that, that will be used against you in recruiting. The next 5-star elite level talent that is looking at you and the other school, and the other school will go, yeah, they already had one of those. They screwed him up. He ended up going in the 4th round. And he didn't make a team. Don't go there. You can't have that happen. So for LSU, you have to strike a balance. To my, I'll use round numbers. 70% of the balance is making sure you win games. But there's 30% there that says you need to make sure guys are doing the things that they need to do to develop for the next level. I've used these examples in the past, but like if you've got, a 6'9" big in basketball, it may not be the best thing for your team for him to shoot 2 threes a game. But you kind of need to allow him to shoot 2 threes a game to show off his ability to shoot for the NBA scouts. He's not shooting 8 threes a game. You're not letting him run the point, but you do have to let him develop that part of his game. If you've got a guy that hits a ton of home runs, but he DHs in baseball, you got to let him at least try to play some defense so that his draft stock can improve. You don't send him out there to shortstop. You don't tell him to go play in center field. He plays first. He plays left field. But you've got to at least give him the opportunity. And that's where I am with Perkins. Like, I'm not telling you to take him out of a pass rush role. I'm not telling you to go have him play nickel and cover guys in the slot for 4 quarters. But there's got to be a piece to this puzzle that is an eye on the NFL. And so I think that's a fascinating thing. We'll be talking about it for 3 months. And hopefully in the course of that, Harold Perkins makes a ton of plays, develops in his game, LSU wins a lot, and everybody's happy. But that hasn't necessarily been the case the entire time that Harold Perkins has been on campus. So we'll just see how things shake out. But 3 LSU Tigers in Fields Yates' initial mock draft. Will Campbell at number 10 to the Saints, Emory Jones at 16 to the Browns, and Harold Perkins Jr. coming in at number 23 to the Houston Texans. Interesting that Will Campbell, Louisiana guy, to the Saints, Harold Perkins, a Texas guy in terms of his high school. He was born in New Orleans, going to the Houston Texans. Interestingly, if you want to talk quarterbacks here, which I do find fascinating, they've got Carson Beck going first to the Giants in this if they trade up for him. They got Shedeur Sanders going number 4 overall. And the next quarterback on the list is Quinn Ewers going 8th. And then the last one I wanted to mention was, as I scroll, I thought there was one more quarterback, but that's the point of like the 8 is about the range where that last elite level quarterback comes off the board in this mock draft. And the Saints at 10 are fairly close to that. We could be having a discussion this time next year about the Saints having a new quarterback, like a new prospective quarterback. Derek Carr will still be on the team, but you could have a guy behind him. Like that is a possibility if this season goes really south. But we'll see. If you're looking for Saints coverage, you can find it at Hunt on Saints on YouTube. Appreciate y'all for subscribing up to that channel, getting all your Saints news each and every day. All right, we still got 30 minutes to go here. LSU Hoops put out their schedule. I've got some thoughts on the way that shakes out. A little bit more football that we'll get to as well. Don't go anywhere. It's a Wednesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services is about peace of mind. Hurricanes eventually are going to show up. Afternoon storms are going to show up. Power going out is just an absolute nuisance. No one that I know hates the power going out more than my wife. She just can't handle it. House gets hot. It's dark. She gets a little irritable. It's not what you want. So you get a Boudreaux's electrical generator put in. Way you don't have to deal with that ever. Even if you evacuate for a hurricane, you don't want to come back to a house that's 98 degrees, dark, with everything in the fridge and freezer spoiled. That's not a great thing to come home to. Get that Generac generator put in from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical Services. All of their Generac generators come with 7 to 10-year warranties. You can call them in the 985 at 397-1562. It's a number I've been giving you for over a year now, 397-1562. But also, they've got a Gonzales location, so they can service your needs anywhere in our listening area here in South Louisiana. 225-300-9389 is the number, 225-300-9389. You can always check them out online as well, boudreauxelectrical.com. It's Boudreaux's Electrical Services, boudreauxelectrical.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, you know, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, you know. We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. Tigers back on the practice field. Brian Kelly meets with reporters after. We'll have the latest. And Saints getting ready for their final preseason game. Join us, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Tune in Friday night for the third and final edition of the SEC Radio Network's Battle for Atlanta. It's a full preview of all 16 SEC football teams as they prepare for the 2024 season. Friday night at 8 p.m. on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, and get ready to make your picks for this year's college football pick'em presented by Hooters. Pre-register now at 1045ESPN.com. Weekly winners will be entered to win a 2-night stay at the Beau Rivage, and the first place season-long champion will receive a 75-inch 4K flat-screen TV and soundbar. It's the 2024 college football pick'em presented by Hooters.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, back. Live radio here. You've not been prepped on this at all. We'll see if it works or it doesn't. But I'm going to do an exercise here just to see if I can prove a point. There are 16 teams in the SEC now, 16 schools in the SEC, correct? All right. Name one of them.
LSU. Arkansas.
Okay, Arkansas. That works. I mean, LSU is the home team, and we'll talk about their basketball program in a second. But mainly, my point was, secretly and quietly, the SEC is a bear in basketball right
Yeah.
now. Like, we know baseball, we know softball, we know football, but in basketball, it's really good. And the point of that was, you're going to name a school, I bet you they got a damn good basketball program. And Arkansas with John Calipari's got 5 stars falling off trees up there at this point now. He took a bunch of the recruits that he had signed at Kentucky. He brought a couple players over from Kentucky. Like, they may not win anything because I don't think he can coach worth a flip, but they're going to have an exciting team with NBA guys on it while he's there, and they do. Missouri was 0 for last year. They were terrible, and so I don't know. They were good the year before that, and then they were 0 for this year. Vanderbilt's not good.
My guy's Stack, man.
Yeah, man, they're terrible. And LSU's been on the skids for 2 years. They made the NIT last year. But I think LSU's going to be better this year, and I think a lot of people do. But you start to look around, like traditional doormats and programs that weren't good at basketball. If I'm taking a 25-year sample size, like Auburn was real bad a lot. They're really good. Like, you've had years where South Carolina's been terrible. They had a good team last year. Like, A&M's not really known as a basketball school. Buzz has had good teams. Ole Miss has a great coach. Mississippi State has been a tournament team back-to-back years under Chris Jans. Like, they've had some tough times as well. It's just a really good league. So when I looked at LSU's basketball schedule, I was kind of looking for the spot where you get kind of a break or where there's like really, really tough stretch. And basically, which is how I got to the point of this, I was like, everybody's pretty good. I think they should beat Vanderbilt at home. It's the first game they play in league play. I can't name one player on their team. I just had to Google their coach. It's Mike Byington. Whatever. He was at James Madison. Sounds great. I think they should win that game to start SEC play. But you start to look at the rest of them, like, everybody's pretty good. It's like there's not a spot where you look and go, ooh, they really need to win 4 of 5 right there. That spot doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think it just speaks to the fact that, and then with Oklahoma and Texas coming in, I mean, those teams are usually pretty solid. Texas has been a bit up and down, but I mean, they have a solid. Those are both solid teams that are going to add to the conference as well. And for LSU, it's just another year where the schedule is probably not going to be super highly regarded in terms of the out of conference, but if they can win, I don't know, 9 or 10 conference games, that's going to be a pretty decent season.
I agree. I look at the schedule, and you would think, well, they got a favorable draw to start because they get Vanderbilt at home, then they got Missouri and Ole Miss. But both those games are on the road, so winning road games is not easy. And then you got Arkansas, and then you got A&M, and then you got Bama, and then you got Auburn, and then you got Texas. And this is the point I'm making. It's just they all look very, very difficult, and I'm curious. Its selection committee will see it that way, and you'll see teams that hover around 500 that get the 9 seed, get the 10 seed, and get into the NCAA tournament. You mentioned Texas, Oklahoma. They're very good teams, and they're very good programs, and they're going to be very difficult to deal with. Texas comes to Baton Rouge in basketball this year, which is cool. LSU will go to Oklahoma in that one. I was curious about LSU hosting Arkansas just because I want to see the Calipari circus come to town. LSU does play Arkansas twice every year, so LSU does get John Calipari coming into the PMAC. The other interesting thing about the basketball schedule, and I'm not sure how they're going to handle this, but they've flexed the midweek games. So if you look at LSU's basketball schedule right now, they play Vanderbilt on Saturday, January 4th, because everybody plays on Saturday. But as y'all are aware, the midweek game, you either play Tuesday or Wednesday. Well, they've got January 7th or 8th for LSU's trip to Missouri. The following midweek is January 14th or 15th for Arkansas. They're locked in. They don't play the next midweek, but then the next midweek for Auburn is 28th and 29th. So I guess the SEC is going to kind of juggle that TV-wise as the season goes on, kind of like they do in football. You've got to give reasonable time if you're talking about days of the week that you're going to play for travel arrangements to be made, but I would think they're looking at flexing some of that, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is, and I think it's a sign that the SEC in terms of basketball standing is going to be up there, not quite on the level of the ACC, but I think it could be the second best conference in basketball.
I think you could be as good as the ACC.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to be talking about the brands,
right?
Because other than Kentucky, like, you don't consider anybody that level. But like Tennessee's been really good for like 5 years.
Very good.
Like, they've been really good. John Calipari at Arkansas creates that kind of buzz that you're looking for from outside of Duke or North Carolina, anybody in the ACC, and he's as big a brand as Duke or North Carolina currently in the sport of basketball. I mean, Florida's had their runs where they've won national championships and made Elite Eights, and then you start talking about coaches like Chris Beard that have a lot of skins on the ball, Buzz Williams that has a lot of skins on the wall. Like it's an interesting deal. I looked at the end of LSU's schedule to kind of see like how things finish up. And if there's a grind or if it's kind of soft, and surprise, surprise, it's really difficult. The last few games in SEC play are a home game against Florida, home game against Tennessee, at Mississippi State, at Rupp Arena in Lexington, home against Texas A&M. That's your last 5. Like there ain't a layup among them.
I mean, what do you think? What do you think that? I mean, obviously the expectations in Lexington are going to be high, but with Mark Pope coming in, I just wonder.
I think they'll give him a year.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, they're going to go nuts when they lose games. They're going to go nuts for an hour and a half. But I think big picture, they will allow him to go get a class. Now, year 2, no excuses in a sport where you can get 6 guys in a week to come in. Like year 2, there's no excuse. Year 1, I think they were so ready to get John Calipari out of there. They wanted any sort of new blood. This guy is playing to the crowd. He's a Kentucky guy. He's great on the microphone. Like they were sick of Cal's smugness and arrogance and losing big games. They wanted a breath of fresh air. They'll take this guy and they'll give him a year. I think very similar to the way that LSU handled Jay Johnson. Like LSU fans didn't like losing games in Jay's first year, but you kind of understood this is not ready. And then year 2. Go. And he had number 1 team in the country and won a national championship. Same thing with Brian Kelly here, football, same type deal where I don't think anybody expected too much that first year, but by year 2, like it's giddy up and let's go. As far as LSU this year, like I will allow myself to marinate a little bit more on their roster and then kind of think about how things could go. But I would hope LSU could go above 500 in league play. Like that's like hope.
I wonder what the expectation is from LSU, from the athletic department. What I mean, I would think that their expectation has to be a 500. SEC
I would think
conference.
you need to make the tournament 2 out of 3 years moving forward.
Yeah,
like it's a hard league. It's not a blue blood job. They're not a ton of great in-state players to make sure that you maintain. So the expectation that you would make 7 NCAA tournaments in a row at LSU, I don't think is. But I think LSU should make the NCAA tournament 2 of 3 years.
Yeah,
and that should be. And John Brady did that for a while. Like he pretty much did that for a while. And of course, Will Wade set the standard that you could make it every year, which he was doing. Maybe I should raise my standard. Maybe I should hold the basketball program to the same standard I do football and baseball. But I don't. I've lived here for 18 years. I know how bad it can get. We've seen some really bad basketball teams, and I just think that there are some inherent advantages the baseball and football programs have that basketball doesn't quite have. You could suggest that's a lack of commitment from LSU, from the athletic department, from the fan base, and I wouldn't necessarily totally disagree with that. But that's just my personal expectation for what they're going to be. I had a chance to interview Matt McMahon at that event I emceed on Thursday of last week for the Baton Rouge chapter of the Alumni Association and the Bengal Bells and all the crew over there, and I can tell you he's really excited. Like he's fired up. I've spoken with Coach McMahon probably 5-6 times now in person in the pregame show, and he's come on this show a couple times, and then I've done that event a few times as well. And like you can sense that like he knew there was a big time battle to fight for the first couple of years, and I thought he fought that fight pretty admirably. Now it's a different fight. Now it's okay. You're in the mix. You've got to do some really good things, and I think he's got a team that he thinks should be better. This town is more fun in November,
it is.
In December, January, and February when the basketball team's good.
Yeah,
like, it just is.
And especially with Kim Mulkey and the women's team. I mean, if when both, I mean, I was young, but I remember when the women's and the men's teams were good. I mean, there really it was different. Like you drive by the PMAC, every few days. There's the parking lot's just full because people love to go watch a good basketball team. And we've talked about before too, like. When the team is good, the fans will show up.
Yeah, no doubt. They'll come to gymnastics meets.
Yeah.
They'll go to anything if you're good. And we've seen that LSU can compete at the highest level in any sport. They just haven't gotten there in men's basketball. And I'm excited about this team. They should be able to defend significantly better than they did last year. They brought in 2 really, really good defenders. Matt McMahon spoke to that group about that on Thursday. And statistically speaking, they've got guys that can shoot it. Now, you got to do that once again, and that can be a fickle thing at times, but they've got a lot of pieces. I'm hopeful that LSU basketball will have a good season. They will start things off, as the full schedule is now confirmed, with ULM on November the 6th. So that's the Wednesday before Alabama?
Yeah, I think so.
Bama's the Wednesday before Alabama. That's generally the way it goes, and then they'll play again on Sunday after the Alabama game against Alabama State before a trip up to Manhattan, Kansas to play the Jayhawks. So a whole basketball schedule is out. You can check it out over at louisianasports.net. We've got the whole thing posted up there. All right, we got one segment to go. We'll play Take It or Leave It.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group. Jonathan Carbo and his team right here in Baton Rouge, they are your advocate in the insurance market. We understand that insurance market's really, really tough. Y'all know I spent 7 years in insurance, and I know that there's a low barrier to entry in that field. And there are some really, really, really good agents like Jonathan, and there are some agents that aren't as good, that are just in there to try to win on price and hope they hang on to their clients and nothing bad happens. That's not the type of agent that you need. You need an agent that's involved. You need an agent that knows what they're doing. You need an agent that has access to multiple markets, that can make sure that your insurance program is placed in the right place. And Highland Insurance Group can absolutely do that for you. You should trust your insurance agent and have a relationship with them like you do with your attorney. When things go bad, you need them in the foxhole with you. Jonathan Carbo and his team truly believe in that. If you're looking to shop your insurance every 10 months and make sure you got the lowest rate possible and cutting coverages out here and there and not really sure what's in the policy language, if that's how you're handling your insurance, I would highly, highly recommend calling Highland Insurance Group or visiting them online at highlandig.com to change the way that you handle your insurance coverage. Jonathan Carbo is a fantastic agent. He's a fantastic dude. He's got a fantastic agency there at Highland Insurance Group. Check him out online, highlandig.com. They do property and casualty. They do employee benefits as well. Highland Insurance Group, highlandig.com.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Moscone.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Hey, it's Matt Moscone. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial properties. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
On Thursday's OTB, we continue to get you ready for Saints preseason game number 3. Plus, the latest from LSU training camp. They got to take on USC. And Munchies with Chef Michael Johnson. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
Rev delivers our coverage live from Las Vegas starting Friday, August 30th with Off the Bench and After Further Review, and continuing Sunday, September 1st with Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Our coverage is also presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Watch us live on the 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel. Kick off the 2024 LSU football season live from Las Vegas with Rev 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 104.5 ESPN and Citizens Bank and Trust are looking for the ultimate tailgate. Upload your best tailgate photo to 1045ESPN.com for a chance to win a $500 Alumni Hall gift card. Our judges will select a winner on August 29th. It's the ultimate tailgate giveaway from Alumni Hall, Citizens Bank and Trust at 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
In fact, you say that Paulson Adebo was able to practice today?
Yeah, just saw it on Twitter. A couple of people mentioning it at practice about an hour ago that Paulson Adebo is going through team drills. So that is a very good sign for the New Orleans Saints.
That is. They need him. They need all those corners to be as good as they can be because that's the backbone of the team. The corners are as good as they got. So anybody that they can put out there that's healthy, that's a very, very good thing. Talked a little Saints earlier in the show. Also talked a little bit of LSU football injury report. Matt will have more on that coming up on After Further Review. Yesterday on the show, we were talking about Lane Kiffin and in quite an audacious move. He was bashing Coca-Cola as they sponsored his press conference. They put a Coke bottle up on his podium as he's doing it, and that's for sponsorship dollars. Obviously, Nick Saban did the same thing at Alabama for years and years and years. And in the press conference, Kelly was like, "Who drinks Coke? It's got too much sugar in it." And he was talking about Coca-Cola in a very negative manner as they're paying Ole Miss for the Coke bottle to be there. Not the greatest move, but Lane I don't think really cares at all. Now, I've not heard this, but apparently Brian Kelly had some comments about that at his press conference today.
Just a shout out to our sponsor, Coke. Smart water, great Coke product. Minerals, vitamins, it's just great for you. It's refreshing, healthy, and Coke provides you all the products that you need depending on what you like. And I love Smart Water.
All right, that's good. That's very good.
That's good.
Brian Kelly has got some dad joke tendencies.
He does.
And sometimes they don't land.
Nope.
And they're a little rough. There's no doubt you kind of want to crawl. It's got some Michael Scott feels to it.
Yeah, it definitely
and you want to crawl under the desk. You don't want to deal with that. But that one landed. That was really good. I don't know if everybody was aware of it in the room, but I think that's fantastic work for a guy that at times may just miss the mark. It comes from the right place, but sometimes the comedic timing is just not necessarily there. That was excellent. I love the sponsors we have are fantastic. I love each and every one of the sponsors of this show. And you go, oh, of course you do. They pay. Yeah, but I do. I have a great relationship with everybody that we advertise for here. I will say, and it has nothing to do with this show and has never had anything to do with the show. There was only one time in my professional life, it was years ago, that I got up there and said something I just had no knowledge or interest in at all, just because they would cut me a check. Those days are long gone. I'm not going to do that anymore. We don't have to do that, but I was just desperate for any dollar at that point, so I took it. Thankfully, that doesn't apply at all to any of the ones here. Evolve Physical Therapy, AVSS, House, fantastic, LeBear's, ESPN Bet, Howell Insurance, and then One Bath and Boudreaux. We love them a ton. Certainly not going to get up here and badmouth the sponsors like Lane Kiffin did. That's just poor form for my guy Lane. But he has an offense that scores a lot of points. So I
He
think
does.
he'll be. I think the folks at Ole Miss will probably forgive him for that, and then politely say, "Hey, why don't you not do that? That'd be great." All right, that's it for a Wednesday edition here of the Hunt Palmer Show. One more time, I want to invite y'all to head over to LouisianaSports.net. All your LSU, Saints, and SEC coverage is right there. It's our new print venture. It's brand new, not even a week old yet, but we're getting incredible feedback. The numbers have been fantastic, and we're really enjoying it as well. It's got a lot of content on there. If you go to LouisianaSports.net right now, you'll see the updated story from Brian Kelly with some injuries. There's a Saints practice report up. There are some features. I wrote a column yesterday about LSU's role in the college football playoff and how much I enjoy that. So check it out, LouisianaSports.net, completely free. Bookmark it and visit it a couple times every day. We certainly do appreciate that. Open the show today talking some Saints, specifically their practice from last night, some Dennis Allen sound. LSU's injury updates were at 1:15. And then we did some What If Wednesday. Had some good ones from the Bayou Ford chat today as well, including what advice would I give to a Vegas first timer? If that's you and you're going to Vegas next week for the first time, I gave you some advice. I don't know if it's good advice, but it certainly is advice. Was in that segment. Steve Schneider was with us talking some prep football and all the coverage they're going to be able to provide over there with the LHSAA. The Old Yates mock draft. Will Campbell to the Saints. Does that interest you? Talked about it at 2:15, and LSU Hoops schedule has been released. We chatted about that at 2:30. If you missed any of it, you can always catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can always find us. Search Hunt Palmer Show, like, subscribe, rate, and review. I got the YouTube channels up as well. You can get the whole shows in their entirety, but you can also find some more digestible clips at Hunt on Saints and Hunt on LSU for all your LSU and Saints football. Excited for tomorrow's show. Wilson Alexander talking Tigers. We'll have Luke Johnson talking Saints. JD Piquel. All that coming up tomorrow. Matt's going to drive you home on After Further Review. Have a great Wednesday. This has been the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Every shot, every goal, ESPN Bet has fans covered for the biggest moments on the road to a championship. The exclusive sportsbook of ESPN is the only place where you can find special offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and their personalities throughout the summer months. If you're looking to get some money down on some games, especially as football season creeps up, cannot endorse ESPN Bet enough. And how about this? New users can get a bet reset up to $1,000. That is $1,000 in free bets if you're a new user, if you just don't win that first one. You got to download ESPN Bet today and make it your play. You don't want to be left out with football coming around. You got preseason games, regular season. College football week 0 starts up this weekend. So download ESPN Bet. You must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. In partnership with LeBares Lake Charles. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar.